There's a small section of that piece, and it's husband and wife, and they're sitting down to watch The Three Stooges. And it's a show that she has started to like after having been diagnosed, because it's sort of helping her to not think about what's going on. And I should also say both of them, with this, because of this disease, both of them have sort of become versions of themselves that they don't really like. And their things have kind of boiled up, and they're now going to come out here. And the story is called The Long, Loud Sound. Can people hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So, one summer evening, they were watching The Three Stooges, both of them on the reclining sofa. Though he blamed the living room's high ceilings and shitty acoustics, Bill could not hear as well as he used to, and he'd switched on the subtitles. "I just don't want to suffocate," Rita said. "Sorry." He slid away from her, picked up his arm, which he'd rested on the pillow, on her stomach. "No, I mean, it sounds like a terrible way to die." She took hold of his hand and dragged it back to the pillow. "Is there really a good way to die?" Bill said. Reaching across her, he grabbed the remote from the arm of the sofa. "Do you want me to pause it?" "I'm just saying," she said. On screen, Shemp, who was a character from Three Stooges, on screen, Shemp was in a phone booth calling every woman he knew, hoping one would marry him. "Do you want to talk? I don't want you to be upset." "Why would I be upset?" He paused the movie. Mo had climbed into the phone booth to help Shemp find the nickel he'd dropped. "You already are. It's okay. Play the movie." "It's not. I'm not." He sat up on the sofa. "We agreed we were going to get through a few Stooges before bed, that's all." The movies were each about 20 minutes long, and they'd rented 3. "I want us to laugh a little." "So do I," she said. "So you bring up suffocating?" "I don't want to argue," she said. "I won't be able to sleep." Rita's voice had changed considerably ever since they switched her to Zoldexa, which is a medicine I made up, and smoothies. Her voice had been coming out husky, as if she were learning to cope with some new vocal apparatus. They stayed silent on the sofa, staring at the frozen image of Mo and Shem crammed into the telephone booth. "Are you going to play it?" she said. "No, I want to talk." "No, you don't. You're saying that because you think I do." "Well, am I wrong?" She didn't answer. Sweat had broken out on her upper lip. He could feel sweat, too, on the small of his back. Because it was easier for Rita to move when it was warm, he made a point of setting the thermostat in the house to 81 degrees. 82 was too warm. "I'm scared," she said. "So am I. You think I like waking up in the morning not knowing if there's a dead body next to me?" A sound issued from Rita, but he couldn't tell whether it was a laugh or a cough. He hoped laugh. "If we lived in California," she said, "with my brother." "Stop. It'd be easier." "Easier for who?" "For you. For me." She took a hit of her oxygen tank beside the sofa. Her chest rose and fell, and for the second that the mask was over her nose and mouth, her eyes rolled back and fluttered, ecstatic. The muscles in her neck relaxed. When you were taking care of a dying person, it was easy to forget that relief and pleasure weren't the same thing. Pleasure, if it ever came, tended to be quicker and louder. "I see what I'm doing to you," she said. "I don't want to do it anymore." "You're not doing anything to me." "Do you still think I'm funny?" "Of course I do," he said. "That's what I'm talking about." "What?" "I've made you into a liar," she said. You'd never tell me something just because you thought that's what I wanted to hear. "I fell in love with you," her voice caught like a solid in her throat, "because you were a good-looking ball player and you didn't lie to me. Now that's all you do. You lie to keep me happy, but I'm not happy. I told you I was scared that I would suffocate. I'm sure you're sitting there ready to tell me all the websites you've read saying not to worry, that I should really be worried about falling, hitting my head, and getting a blood clot." She was right. Since at least the purchase of her cane, Bill had found it impossible to be visibly angry with Rita, to touch her in any way that wasn't perfectly loving. He'd yelled at her plenty of times when they were young, and put his hands on her once or twice when alcohol was involved. But now when the feelings rose up in him, and Lord knows they did, a week wouldn't pass that he wouldn't think about ending one or both of their lives. He'd go to the Lazy Susan in the kitchen with a head full of steam and wash down an expired Lexapro. Placebo effect or not, the stuff worked. "Well," he said, "if you want the truth, yes. Yes, the odds are you're going to suffocate, okay? I have read some websites, and some of them say there's an even chance you'll die in your sleep, but most are not that optimistic." He was breathing heavily, as if his body had to catch up to what he'd said. Rita thanked him for telling the truth. "That's why I want to move in with Lee," that's her brother. As she said, "as soon as we can. I can't believe you're saying this. I'm not going to suffocate. I won't. I already feel it. I know that if we let it go till the end, that's how it's going to happen. I'm not going to go quietly in my sleep. I know that. I know God, and he ain't going to be merciful to me. A tear rolled across her cheek and into her ear. The amber light of the sconces on either side of the sofa, in the amber light of the sconces on either side of the sofa, he could see her swallowing. How do we even get there? Your doctors are not going to clear you to fly on a plane. Drive. A road trip to California? Like we did after college, she said. So you're done with work? Celine, the woman she works with. Celine knows I'm no good anymore. All I can do is greet people and talk for now. It's fun, but I feel like people are only buying flowers because they feel sorry for me. Bill joked that, wow, she was willing to do anything, come down, quote unquote, with a disease that would kill her just to protect the shop's bottom line. She was quite the capitalist, he said. The humor was largely lost on Rita. Is it moving that scares you, she said, or the procedure? He knew what he wanted to say, but I just want to make sure you've thought through the logistics. Like what? Like legal residency. We won't have to sell the house if that's what you're asking. No, he said, but if we move in with your brother, doctors are not going to do the procedure right away. To prove we're residents, we probably have to live there for 6 months, she said. And we have to show, or you would have to show, that you plan to live there 9 months out of the year. The speed with which she'd summoned the information startled him. Lee researched it. He said he could convince his landlord to go back and put our names on the lease so we'd have 6 months of residency the day we arrived. And I guess I could claim that I've been working out there remotely. You work from home now, what's the difference? It just sounds too simple. If there's any state that'll look the other way, it's California, she said. Bill made himself laugh, though the whole thing he thought sounded preposterous, like crying on cable TV. He'd taken his wife's hand in both of his and was thumbing the swollen joint of her wrist, opening and closing her fingers. The only resistance he felt manipulating her hand was the resistance of tendon and bone. I don't know if I can, he said. If you can what? Bring you to California. You're going to make me go there by myself? No, he said, looking at her. I'm asking you to stay here, in our house, with me. I told you I'm not going to suffocate. I'm not dying like that. You think I want you to suffocate? Obviously you do. I don't want you to. You want me to die on your terms. I don't want a doctor playing God, he said. You don't believe in God. I don't believe in God because God is a vicious fucking idea, and a person wanting to be him is even more vicious. Then maybe you can do it for me, she said. Rita. It'd be easy. Crush up a bunch of your sleeping pills, 10 or 12, they're strong enough, and put them in my smoothie. Kiss me goodnight and go to sleep, and when you wake up in the morning, it'll be done. The ambulance will be here before noon, and if you hustle, you can bill 6 or 7 hours at the office. He took back his hands and stood over her in front of the sofa. She was describing yet another way he could kill her involving cough syrup and hard liquor. She'd had Lee research this too, she said. There wasn't enough of her liquid codeine to do the job, and too many Lexapros, assuming Bill hadn't taken them all, would only give her the shakes. As he listened, the heat didn't leave his body. It collected in his arms and legs, and the rest of him was strangely cool. Nobody's doing an autopsy on me, she said. What are you worried about? When the back of his hand connected with his wife's cheek, her head and much of her upper body jerked to one side, he hit her harder than he'd planned to, sending a kind of ripple across the sofa in the other direction. Touching his wife like this, he was ashamed to say, wasn't entirely unappealing. She gasped. Her face and neck turned, in a matter of seconds, a horrid red. During this time, the remote had fallen off the arm of the sofa and on its way down had rung like a clapper against the oxygen tank. And the remote must have hit the tank just right because on television, the Stooges had started up again. I remember you, his wife said wistfully. She was moving more noticeably now, sitting up, adjusting, though she stayed where she was on the sofa, not smiling, but not smiling. I missed you. You're going to die the way God intends you to, he said. You mean the way you intend me to? Same thing. For a while you were making it so easy to love you, she said, that I actually started to hate you. I want us to go back to being our regular, difficult selves. That's the only thing I want before I go. Bill said that this was the hardest their lives had ever been. Didn't she agree? No. It just feels good, he said, to feel something other than pity. He told her he was going to bed, and that if she wanted to sleep beside him, she could, provided she climbed the goddamn steps on her own, which she was, of course, incapable of doing. She said she would sleep happily, very, very happily, on the couch, and added that 29 years of marriage had made Bill a real water lily, spineless, and that she would get Celine or one of their employees on summer vacation to drive her to California. By the time he reached the top of the stairs and was in their master bedroom, swallowing a sleeping pill and then another, she was still talking downstairs, but he was too far away even to hear her.